What is the best way to practice cold exposure? Now, when this all cold exposure fad started, for me back in 2013, the easiest way to get cold, to dunk yourself into physically cold water, was to find an icy cold river. And not everyone had access to a thing like that. So the second best option was to jump into a cold shower, which, depending on where you live, might be cold, might not be cold. However, we live in the golden age of cold exposure devices. There are just so many of them on the market. We have the Morozko Forge, the Ice Barrel, the Cool Plunge, the Cool Tub, and probably like 50 more that I am just not totally aware about. So this video is a review of the ones that I am aware of currently on the market and how you can get cold, preferably in an efficient and cheap way. Okay, so first up, let's talk about what I do. This is the spaceship. This is the Cadillac of cold exposure. It is the Morozko Forge. It gets colder than anything else on the market. It uses heating coils, cooling coils to lower the temperature of the water. It filters the water with a pool filter and a UV filter and is in a cow trough, so you're sort of like lying down as you get cold. As far as I know, it's the coldest available product on the market. It gets down to 32 degrees, which is freezing, and keeps a light circulation. It also has a heater on the bottom, which you wouldn't think you would need, but the heater is good because your butt won't stick to the metal cow trough if it's below 32. So, remember the Christmas story where Frankie puts his tongue on the telephone pole? Yeah, that won't happen to you in the Morozko Forge. Okay. The problem with the Morozko Forge is, of course, that it's $14,000. That's a huge problem. The $14,000 is a lot of money, and not everyone can afford it. I get it. I have one because when this cool plunging stuff was all starting, Morozko Forge actually contacted me and wanted to give me a Morozko Forge, and I was having trouble finding good cold water sources, so I was like, that sounds like a great deal. But I don't take gifts. Yeah, I think I've missed the whole influencer boat here, but I just feel a little crummy about taking things for free. So we worked out a deal where I paid them for their costs of producing the Morozko Forge. So I paid them, I think, like $4,500 or $5,000 for my Morozko Forge, which is still a lot of money. And they gave one to me, and I use it, and I think it's great. It breaks down every now and then. But they have a great service department. They come and they fix it when it does break down. So overall, I give the Morozko Forge an A overall, with sort of some service issues that do come up, but its cost is prohibitively expensive for most people. So maybe that's not for you, or maybe it's for you. Regardless, their business is doing great. Okay, so the next one that I want to talk about is the ice barrel. Okay, you've seen it everywhere. This is the sort of budget option that's still sort of like professional looking, and people are like, oh, I'm an ice bather if I have an ice barrel. And this product, they also contacted me when they were first building up their business, and apparently I was one of two people to say no to the free ice barrel and their incentive program, because frankly, I've been in the ice barrel a lot, and I think it's really expensive for what it is. It is a plastic tub with an air pocket between the two plastic sides, and the nice thing is that you're upright when you're sitting in it, and I find that being upright is a better experience for cold exposure. It's a lot like being in a pond or a river. You're not floating on your back, which can give you this this crink in your neck. So that's nice about the ice barrel. Although you are sort of like squished into like the almost fetal position, which is not all that comfortable. It can be sort of hard to get in and out. Regardless, that's like sort of the experience of being in it. But there's no filtration, so the water gets sort of nasty. And the ice barrel that I use is used by a lot of people. It's at my friend Eric's house. And I often joke with him that his water is not hygienic because you can put it up to the light and there's all these gray skin particles of like 40 dudes who are in it. So if you are under heavy use, I think the ice barrel is not that great. But also the price. It's like $1,500 for a barrel. And it's not like a special barrel as far as I know. It's not like it's an insulated, like a thermos or something. It's just a barrel. And it loses temperature just like anything else. And again, there's no filtration. So I don't see why that's worth $1,500 personally, especially when you can go online and find like an old wine barrel, which I think are the same size, for $100. I was just looking online just now. So I'll put a link down to barrel options down below that are, why not just get a wine barrel? They even look cooler. They're wood. So I would suggest, in my personal opinion, ice barrel's not really for me right now. Maybe they'll improve it or change it later, but I think the price is just prohibitive. And the other thing is like ice barrel's a really good marketing team. Like they go hard after ice influencers and they pay them a pretty decent commission for every ice barrel that is sold through like promo codes and whatever else. Or I've also heard that they'll pay people sort of a monthly stipend if they're sort of a very good influencer. That is, to me, is not a great way to make for a consumer to make a decision on a particular product, right? Ice barrel, just because someone pays someone to market their stuff doesn't mean the product is in itself better. So ice barrel honestly gets sort of low marks from me, even though I've met the people who run the company and I actually really like them. It's just not the one. Okay, so now here's the cool plunge and the cold pool and these other ones, which are sort of like more refined looking devices that have sometimes like porcelain exteriors and sort of a separate cooling device connected by tubes. These, I think they run around $4,500. They're not bad deals, but they don't get really cold. They get down to about 40 as far as I understand, and not much cooler than that. So for me, when I get into an ice plunge, there is a very significant difference between water that's 39 degrees and 38 degrees. I think I've done another video on this. This is weirdly the place where water is most dense in the thermocline. Ice is actually less dense because it expands, and very hot water, turns to steam and is obviously not very dense. So the 38, 39 degrees is actually where water is most dense. And I have personally noticed that if I go in 39-degree water, it's super easy. And if I go in 38-degree water, it's really hard. So there's something about that temperature differential that's important. And all of these other ones, the cool tub, cool plunge, those other ones, their compressors aren't strong enough to get below 40. So even though you will get benefits from those devices, I'm not undermining them. I just don't think they get super cold, and they're a little, they're still $4,000. So that's still a lot of money. Other options are, of course, cold showers. Great in the winter if you're in a cold climate, not so great in the summer. And finding an icy lake. That is the best. That is absolutely the best option that's out there. So another option is the D.I.Y. ice chest freezer, and maybe sort of like making your own thing that looks like a Morozko Forge. Now, these are indeed really good options, and there's a great Reddit post on building your own cooled and filtered cow trough, which is basically identical to the Morozko Forge. And the poster said he could do it for $1,500. Now, I don't know how reliable that is over time. I know there's been a lot of R&D in the Morozko Forge, but $1,500 is a deal, and you should check that out if you want sort of like the high-end feel and you're a little bit handy. I'm not handy, so this is not an option for me, but you might be handy. So check out that post. I'll link to the Reddit down in the doobly-doo. The other thing is, like, why not just get a wine barrel or a cow trough yourself? Now, admittedly, it sucks to go get ice all the time, but the ice barrel doesn't solve that problem. And you might as well pay $100, and then you can buy a lot of ice for that you can get a top for your barrel, and I think that would work just fine. Now, one other note that I have heard is something you should be concerned about. Now, there is a type of coolant that is used in, I believe, and you should probably fact check this. I need to probably also look some links, and I'll try to put them down there if I can find the exact wording here. But there is a coolant that is used in the ice barrel. Sorry, the ice plunge and the cool plunge that is going to be illegal in the United States in about a year. And so compressor prices, when you need a compressor to make things cold, compressor prices have dropped a lot in the last year coming from China. And the reason for this is that the CFC that cools the coolant that it uses will become illegal in America in the next year or year and a half. This means that those compressors could be obsolete soon. And maybe you don't want to use something that uses this particular coolant. Now, I'm going to actually, after I post this video, I'm going to look up exactly what that is, and I'll post it down there. But this could be a problem going forward. This was told to me by the guy who runs Ice Barrel, actually, and it's why he doesn't have a better cooling unit. He's like, we're waiting to create a technology that will be compliant with U.S. environmental regulations. Because once that coolant is no longer in use, I think it's going to be harder to service these products. So that's sort of coming down the pipeline, and this is what I've heard. You should keep that in mind if you're about to purchase one of these more expensive units. All right, so end of the story. What I think, the race car, the best of the best, is probably still the Morozko Forge, but it's expensive. The next best option, I do believe, is just buying a barrel online and filling it with ice. I mean, it's still a pain to deal with the ice, but it's like $1,400 cheaper than the ice barrel. And the other ones, you can use them if you like, but be aware that this coolant issue could be coming down the pipeline. This is my first product review that I've ever done. I hope you like it. This is my unvarnished, unpaid for opinion, and maybe it was useful. Like, subscribe. I have a newsletter. It's a great newsletter. It's the best newsletter on the entire internet, and I'd like you to sign up. I'll put it as the pinned comment on this video. Thanks so much for listening. Take care.